We need immigration, or our countries will fall. Immigrants pay more in taxes than they take out. We need immigration to shore up our pension systems. And what's more, vibrant, mass, non-Western immigration is culturally enriching and must continue indefinitely. These are the arguments that are consistently and without fail used by academia, the controlled media, and the political class to justify mass, uncontrolled demographic replacement. But are they true? There are many examples of studies that refute not only these common assertions, but in fact demonstrate that not only does mass immigration not help destination countries, but in fact becomes a major financial burden for the native tax-paying population. In Canada, for example, a recent long-term study has shown that immigrants impose a huge fiscal burden on Canadian taxpayers. This is the result of immigrants paying about half as much in income tax as other Canadians, but absorbing nearly the same value of government services, costing taxpayers roughly $6,051 per immigrant, and amounting to a total annual cost of somewhere between $16.3 billion and $23.6 billion. These findings are also mirrored in the US, where an authoritative study by the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine found that immigration drains the government, sapping as much as $296 billion a year from the federal, state, and local taxpayers, while depressing wages, at least in the short run. The data shows that immigrants take more in benefits than they pay in taxes. Although immigrants do boost the size of the economy, the gains are heavily skewed toward the immigrants themselves and to wealthy investors, not to native-born workers who end up competing with the new arrivals. The same can be said in the UK, where a recent report concluded that migrants contributed much less in taxes than they used in government services, and like in Canada and the US, immigrants on the whole are a negative drain upon the countries they enter. The crippling £17 billion annual shortfall in the UK is pretty much replicated in every country that is targeted with mass immigration. The problem with these studies is that regardless of being nonpartisan, regardless of being bulletproof in terms of statistics and conclusions, there will always be those on the left that want to continue to import new dependent voter blocks, and those on the right that want to import a more malleable and cheaper workforce that drives down wages, that somehow the numbers are being skewed. And of course, always the appeals to emotion and virtue signaling. However, in a first of its kind, a Western country has published a calculation of exactly what non-Western immigration contributes to the public purse. The Danish Ministry of Finance, in a study titled Immigrants' Net Contribution to Public Finances, that was released on the 10th of April 2017, has not only validated what all the other studies have shown, but that the actual cost of mass immigration is not only gigantic, but for a lack of a better word, shocking. The study begins that Denmark has, for many years, been characterized by a massive debate on the cultural and economic impact of immigration, as have all other countries in the West, I may add. But the Ministry of Finance internal study has ended the debate, and has shown that immigrants and their descendants cost the Treasury 28 billion Danish crowns in 2014. And if the net benefit that Western immigrants provide the country is deducted, and if only non-Western immigrants and their descendants are looked at, that number balloons to 33 billion crowns. Put another way, in 2014, native Danes contributed a net surplus of 56 billion crowns in total to the public treasury, while non-Western immigrants and their descendants created a net loss of 33 billion crowns. Something's rotten in Denmark. Via its own study, the government of Denmark's Ministry of Finance has concluded that non-Western immigration is costing more than half of the entire amount of net taxes taken in from native Danes last year, this year, next year, every year. Actually, something is rotten not only in Denmark, but the entire Western world. Everywhere you have mass immigration into the West, you have the native population having to increasingly shoulder an ever larger cost to maintain what are essentially, and at times, intergenerationally unemployable people. In Sweden, the government has had to continue to cut costs and borrow more to pay for the burden of non-Western immigration. In Germany, the same government that brought fellow EU state Greece to its knees through forced austerity will spend approximately 94 billion euros on migrants by the end of 2020. This says nothing of the people that are already in the country living on handouts. Needless to say, there is no good news on the contributions anywhere in the West that mass immigration has on the public purse. In fact, it's quite the opposite, and this says nothing to the absolute plethora of studies that have been done on the outcomes in communities that are increasingly diversifying. And despite the common "diversity is our strength" mantra,
we need societies that recognize diversity as a source of strength, not as a source of weakness.
In the Russian Federation, our diversity has always been our beauty and our strength.
We think the diversity is the strength of the Republican Party.
Diversity is the Democratic Party's greatest strength.
Our diversity is our strength.
Diversity is our strength.
The country's strength is our diversity. It's not our weakness.
Our diversity is our strength.
Our diversity is a strength and a blessing.
Diversity is one of our great strengths.
Diversity is one of our greatest strengths.
We see our diversity as a strength.
See our diversity in America not as something to fear, but as something to welcome because it's a source of our national strength.
diversity is not a strength to communities. It's social poison. In study after study after study, diversity has been shown to destroy community cohesion wherever it is introduced. In his study, E Pluribus Unum, Diversity and Community in the 21st Century, Harvard academic and self-described leftist Robert Putnam's own conclusions distressed him so much that he sat on his findings for a time. Putnam, one of the world's most influential political scientists, had this to say on diversity. Inhabitants of diverse communities tend to withdraw from collective life, to distrust their neighbors regardless of the color of their skin, to withdraw even from close friends, to expect the worst from their community and its leaders, to volunteer less, give less to charity and work on community projects less often, to vote less, have less faith that they can actually make a difference, and to huddle unhappily in front of their television. The Rot in Denmark has shown conclusively that mass immigration is not a financial benefit, nor via a plethora of studies does diversity have a positive effect on the social climate of targeted countries. It is, in fact, quite the opposite. While the reasons are complicated and numerous, I have outlined in the following two videos on why, despite all the social destruction and financial drain associated with mass immigration, why it continues unabated in the West, and it's largely to do with the issuance of debt. As well, the video on the right explains via a review of academic studies the poisonous effects that so-called vibrant diversity and cultural enrichment is having on communities throughout the West. So, thanks for watching. As YouTube is making it harder and harder and harder for people to comment on anything other than lipstick, shopping hauls, or puppy videos, as well as the demonetization crisis currently depopulating the platform, I would ask that if you like this kind of material, to please consider supporting this channel via Patreon or a one-off donation via PayPal. Details are in the description. Every bit helps keeping this project alive, and even trickles can form into a river. If you aren't in a position to help, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video. You can follow me on the usual social media and check out the website blackpigeonspeaks.com for more interesting information like this.